Welcome into another edition of our Cubs Recap Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel. Let me do it again. 3, 2, 1. Welcome into another edition of our Cubs Recap Podcast, a presentation of our Recap, REKAP YouTube channel, and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast. Back with my partner again. He's the great Gordon Wittenmeyer. Spring training right around the corner. I'm David Kaplan. So we have PECOTA rankings, prospect rankings, and 4 big Scott Boras clients still sitting on the board on the 8th of February,
that
a
is
week away from reporting.
Freaking crazy. What does that tell you about Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, Cody Bellinger, and the Texas pitcher,
Jordan Montgomery.
Jordan Montgomery. I mean,
Tells me that everybody is underbidding where Scott wants to be.
Yeah, which surprises me. I mean, it just makes me wonder what he wants for those pitchers, because Snell has been he's a 2-time Cy Young winner, but he's not a workhorse by any means.
No, and a Yankee reporter said they were told the Yankees were in there, and the reason they signed Stroman for a lot less because they were told 9 for $270 was the asking price on Snell, and they went bye-bye.
The problem with Snell is, and this is where the economics of baseball come in. Snell's performance level suggests that's what he should get, performance level. But the problem is, and this is the economics of the game that everybody knows, including Scott Boras, and Blake Snell should know, he doesn't pitch enough innings. That means you got to cover so many more innings every time he pitches. You got to spend money on other pitchers to cover his starts, more other pitchers for his starts than a guy that gives you 6 1/3, 6 2/3 on the average, which nowadays is a workhorse. So you can pay for the premium of the performance, but it doesn't do you any good if he gives you a 2-0 lead through 5, and you got to go to your bullpen and you lose 3-2.
Exactly. He's usually that guy after 5 innings. You're like, all right, get somebody loose.
Yeah, I'll never forget the 2020 World Series when he's cruising and they pull him from that game.
They did. And that was not the manager's call.
No,
that was from upstairs.
No, and that's the analysis of him. That's the objective analysis that probably all teams, but I would certainly say most teams would apply to him. And it's, that's the modern game. And you really can't argue with what he does when he is on the mound. It's it's how many outs he's not on the mound for in his starts.
Okay, so Jeff Passan was on Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000. Jesse Rogers was co-hosting at the station. Both guys said they don't think, Jesse by a 51-49 margin, that Cody Bellinger's coming back. Passan said, I think Jed has one more big move in him. I think he gets one of the 4 Boras clients, but not Cody Bellinger. What do you think?
I think he's right. Even before I saw that, I just kept thinking to myself, this isn't going to happen. I kept recalling conversations that I had through the year, never mind since the year, about the intentions with Cody Bellinger and the plans, basically the plans going forward without him. And his price being high enough that he's still on the market, he ain't coming back to the Cubs. Look, whatever their level of interest is in him, somebody's going to pay more than they're going to want to pay for him. That's my feeling. It may come back to them. I don't think it will. I think they have enough. I think they have enough young players that can cover where he plays. I mean, in their mind, you probably don't need a first baseman anymore, assuming they believe in Michael Busch. So now what's your outfield look like? Their best position prospect is, and 2 of their best 3 or 4 are outfielders that can play that center field position for him and cover him. So I just don't see them investing heavily. I do really think Matt Chapman is the Boras client that comes to the Cubs at this point. If I had to bet, and I'm not a gambler like you are, but if I had to bet my available resources on one guy, I'd put my money on Matt Chapman because he fits the sort of template that Hoyer has applied to his roster since he took over. If you look at the last 2 off seasons, what's he put a premium on? Yes, pitching, but not the top of the market pitching. Yes, hitting, but not the top of the market hitting. He has gone to the top of the market on defensive players. That's why he's got the best middle infield in baseball right now. It's why he's got a defensive emphasis behind the plate.
So does he sign a starting pitcher like Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell if he can get the money at a reasonable level, as opposed to Matt Chapman, who would fill a hole at third? But if it's a long-term deal, the Cubs don't want to go super long with him because they think Matt Shaw's close. Keith Law's latest prospect list, Matt Shaw is in. He's less than a year into his big league career, or his professional career. He's number 26, and they think he could be here this season.
Man, I'm going to go back to we keep doing this, Cap. Young players, prospects. You're the Cubs, man. You're trying to win. And if you are going to go get somebody and try to win, I think Matt Chapman fits that bill for the run prevention you're trying to put together. Look at that infield. That would be the best infield in the league. And I know they got Nolan Arenado, Goldschmidt over there in St. Louis, but they've definitely got the best middle infield in the league right now, maybe in the game right now. And Chapman is one of the top 5 defensive third basemen in the game. I mean, that there's not a ground ball getting through that infield. And so now you look at your pitching staff, which is largely a contact rotation, and it fits. It just fits. You could go out and if the price is right for a Montgomery, maybe I'd go get a guy like Montgomery. Snell, maybe. I think Snell is going to really try to leverage those Cy Young awards as he should, and get paid as he should. I don't think they're going to do that. So Montgomery will get less than Snell, I would guess. He's almost certainly asking for less, and maybe that comes back to you. But the fit among those guys, to me, what the Cubs try to do is Chapman.
I wonder if, and I had asked somebody who would know very close to this situation, any chance that you'd get both Bellinger and Chapman if they came down in price? He said, no, absolutely not. They're not going to do that. Yeah. Absolutely not.
Well,
he said they want to play Michael Busch. He said they do. They do want to add a big league quality bat. And he said, you're cutting down now on when you have to make multiple 40-man moves. I said, what about another reliever? He said, Hector Neris was a really good signing. Really good. He said, looking at their 40-man, there's not a lot of fat to cut much from there now. He said, if you're bringing in middling relievers, he goes, there's no, high-end reliever. He said that you feel like you're making a major upgrade. So
I would mostly agree with that. I mean, the thing about that, the question is kind of flawed, right? Would they bring both of those guys if the price was right? Yes, they would. That's the easy answer and the obvious answer. Yes, they would. I don't give a shit what this guy said. Mm-hmm. No, there's no way that happens. Yes, there is. If the price is low enough, it always is. So
but the price would have to come down so dramatically that it's unrealistic.
Well, wait. So what's realistic? Are you talking about if both guys could be had for 5-year, $100 million deals?
Yeah, they do it.
Would they do it? Okay. That's rock bottom, right? for certainly for Bellinger.
I wonder if either guy would say, "I'll take a 1-year pillow contract and try and rebuild my value."
Chapman's too old, and Bellinger just did it. So
people doubt Bellinger. They go, "I don't know. It's 1 year." Like if he did it again.
Well, let me ask you this, Cap. If you're Bellinger, do you take that chance? I don't.
Well, what are my options?
Well, I guarantee. Here's the thing. Let's just say the best offer on the table out there is 5 and 100. I think we could safely say somebody would sign him for that.
I would think.
Right. So now that contract wasn't there a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was because of his 3-year arc leading into last year. Now he's rebuilt some value based on last year, but there were flaws within that. You do that again, now you're 30 when you're a free agent. And what if it doesn't go well? What if it doesn't go as well as last year did? Now you're not getting 5 and 100. You're looking again at maybe 3-year offers. Maybe if you were healthy and performed at some reasonable level. But what if you didn't? What if you regress again? Yes, there's questions about this guy. 1 year was not going to suddenly erase all those questions unless he hit 45 home runs and, hit 280 and had a 900
He hit
OPS.
307 or 305 with 26 bombs.
Right. And he spent time on the IL. And if you look at the peripherals, I hate getting into this shit, but you look at some of the peripherals and some people come in and say, well, the hard contact wasn't there and so on and so forth. And 26 is not 30. Remember, this guy hit 40 home runs at one point. That was the guy he was. He was an MVP. He was trying to rebuild all-star MVP value. He did not have an all-star MVP season and as much as he did hit for average. So you take a big risk if you come back trying to do another pillow contract, and then if you perform off the charts, sure. Either way, you're another year older. And what he had going for him last year was he still was a very young player. This was the year he was supposed to be a free agent. Remember, Dodgers cut him loose. So he's now normal free agent age, still in his 20s. So there's value in that. I don't think he's going to have I don't think he's going to reasonably be able to expect to have more value to leverage a year from now by taking another pillow contract.
So Jeff Passan says the Blue Jays need him more. Somebody I talked to in the game said, Blue Jays don't have the type of payroll flexibility that Jeff might think that they do. He said, yeah, they would love to add another bat. They're not flush. He said, I'm telling you, they're not going to go to a really high level to get that guy. I don't believe. So my question is, this Cody, if the offers are reasonably close, again, if someone's at 200 and someone's at 100, yeah, I'll live in Toronto too. But if the offers are reasonably close, they're, like this. Does Cody Bellinger say, I'm taking the last dollar, I'm going to Canada, where the taxes are different, where life is different, it's just a different way to live? Or does he go, all right, get me the most you can, I want to be in Chicago? What do you think?
I think he takes the highest dollar. And I think you factor in all those things like taxes and exchange rate and being in a different country. You take all that into account, but you take the last US dollar that there is to get. And I don't think that, Toronto's a great city. It is a very cool city, and he would fit. His personality would fit there just fine, just like it fit just fine in Chicago. Cody Bellinger's personality is not going to be an issue in any particular market. He's fine. So no, I don't think Chicago has a leg up with him unless they're going to pay him more than somebody else.
I wonder what level Jed would go to. I wonder.
Yeah. I don't know. What we'll find out at some point is what his top value was. We will find out what the top offer was, because that's what he's going to take. And then we'll find out either what the Cubs were willing to pay because they paid it, or what they weren't willing to go to.
Yeah, we remember when we were talking, and I said, "Why would you not get this done during the season?" And you said he's going to go to free agency, and we all thought, "Oh boy, Boras is going to ask for 8 years and 320, and then he's going to come down and he'll get 280. He may not get 175.
He might not. I don't know. We'll find out. But this is the process, right? And is it? Here's the thing you got to remember about these market things, right? So did he fail if he doesn't get a $200 million deal? Is that a failure in free agency that he doesn't get a $200 million deal? No. Whatever he gets, if he takes the best offer, is a success. He's going to get paid a ton of money, whatever it is, for however many years it is.
Right.
And that's going to be the top offer out there. And it's going to be, that will be, and if it's assuming it's 5 or more years, that will mean that his 2023 gamble, that
paid off.
That plan, it wasn't even really a gamble. It was kind of his only choice. But
he took a shot and he rebounded, and it paid off.
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you something. I was talking to my partner on the radio, Jonathan Hood, and he said, "Do you think there's collusion going on?" He said, "When you have all these guys sitting on the market still, there's a lot of good players out there, from Joey Votto to JD Martinez to Cody Bellinger to Blake Snell to Jordan Montgomery to Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler. I can keep going. I do not believe there is. I believe owners finally got smart. Yeah, Ohtani's going to get his money, and however creative they do.
Owners are no smarter than they've ever been, Cap. They just do it a different way. Yes, there's collusion, but I will explain what I mean by that. There's collusion the same way that there's collusion across corporate America these days. When you run your economic models through computers, and then you have a lot of shared knowledge in these marketplaces, it creates a lot of similar results.
Yes.
And so one of the things, sports, particularly baseball, that was one of the last places that showed up because of the competitive nature of it, of the sort of independent way a lot of teams operated. Look at the Yankees.
A lot of guys say I get 4 offers and they're all with right there, the same number.
So in 2018 and 19, those two off seasons, 2018 into 2018 and into 2019, those 2 off seasons were they were the 2 slowest moving off seasons since collusion was proven.
That's when Jake Arrieta sat out till he didn't sign almost March.
And that was the year when guys like Brad Brock came into camp and said it was really weird. The same thing you just said. I got exactly the same offer from 4 teams. So I just picked, after a while, I picked the place I wanted to go. But it was really weird. And I talked to other players and they said similar things, right? So what they didn't prove it, and they sort of negotiated away from that. Like this was something that came up in the last CBA. I don't think they had the same kind of paper trail they had in the 80s.
Because they all use the same algorithms and analytics.
It's not but it's beyond that, because now the commissioner meets with commissioners having an owners meeting today, but every off season, I think it usually coincides right around the GM meetings in November. Owners will meet with the commissioner. Commissioner will also meet with the baseball operations heads, and they talk about these things. This is a progressive historical trend in the game that has focused, that the league and the teams have gotten so sophisticated with their economic approach, and with their economic emphasis on capping everything they can, and recapping it. Hey, how's that for a shout out?
Take that.
So you get hard caps on amateur signings, hard caps on draft bonus pools. you get soft caps, and they're getting harder and harder, actually, with these luxury tax thresholds on the major league pay scales. So there's a natural outgrowth to that. One of them is that your middle class sort of disappears. That's why you got a lot of veterans that are good veterans, but the war models say that, well, we can get a rookie or a second-year guy, 0 to 3 guy that's going to produce as well as this 30-year-old. We don't need the 30-year-old anymore.
Right. That's somebody says, well, hold on a second now. We have Christopher Morel, who hit 23 home runs. He didn't even play the first month. We can get him for $1.2 million. Why should I pay that guy $7 million? That's smart business, Gordon.
Even less, because when you're talking 0 to 3 guys, those guys make less than $1 million. So, and I'm talking about those types of guys.
But you wouldn't do the same thing if you were an owner or a GM?
Look, we can talk all we want about whether it's economically smart or not, or the right way to run a business, blah, blah, blah. But these guys, again, I keep going back to this. There's nuance to this, Cap. These guys aren't just labor. They're not just cogs that you plug in. Some of these guys do things in the community. Some of these guys mean something more to your fans. Some of these guys mean something more in the clubhouse. There's so many things involved with this, and that are involved in winning. And that gets left out of a lot of this stuff, especially when it comes from the league and their emphasis. You remember that story a few years ago about the arbitration and the competition between teams to keep a lid on arbitration. Arbitration, by the way, is another very sophisticated process now that the league's gotten more sophisticated at, and is holding the line on these guys that are literally $35,000
right now as we speak. The players are 6-2 in the first 8 arbitration cases with 10 to go.
And part of that is the clubs not budging on a narrow range that they've decided a player is worth. And they'll take them to the hearings because they're encouraged to do that by the league and to hold the line on arbitration salaries. That story I'm referring to, The Athletic wrote a few years ago, where they had this plastic facsimile of a wrestling championship belt that at their annual, I think it was at the GM meetings, they would award this to the team that kept arbitration, that either won the most arbitration cases or kept the hardest, best line on salaries in arbitration. And they would cheer. And it was kind of disgusting, honestly, because it showed this almost animosity with a certain condescending approach to players and their salaries. What gets left out, man, is these guys, this is their livelihoods. They sacrifice a lot to even get the opportunity to earn money. There's so many players that don't make significant money, that just wash out, and they wind up with nothing after giving, most of their lives to that point. Now, you're still young enough, you can go do other things, but this is your skill. This is what you've spent your life doing. And you get close sometimes, and sometimes you get to a point where you should get rewarded. You're about to get rewarded. Maybe you deserve to get rewarded, and you don't, because some of these other algorithms and evaluations come into play, and you just wind up on the outside looking in. Now, I'm not feeling sorry for millionaires or anything like that. And I do get the business side of the game. It's all about making money, but you asked about this. All started with a question: is there collusion? In this context, there is collusion. This has become so sophisticated, and the communication is so open now between clubs to almost collectively, as though they're a union, combine forces against the union. And so I don't know what.
Yeah, but you cannot legally collude with another club going, hey, don't offer Matt Chapman more than this.
Look, man, this is all legalese. This is all, it's all a matter of what you can prove. And then it's a matter of interpretation of the laws that you're trying to prove, or the rules that you're trying to prove got broken. I mean, look at the argument that the Supreme Court is listening to this week, about whether whether by letter of the law, a state can throw a candidate off the ballot for insurrection activities. It seems pretty obvious, but that's going to be really tough to prove. But we all saw an insurrection on TV. I mean, we saw it in real time, and people across the political spectrum in leadership said so at the time. And now it's been politicized and thrown into legal mumbo jumbo and limbo. And now who the hell knows how some of these decisions that are working their way through the court system right now will come out. If stuff like that can get all jumbled up, I mean, we're talking about, look, I don't think there's an appetite out there to rule that baseball is legally colluding, but in practice, they essentially are. That's what I would suggest. And go ahead and try to prove it. But their actions are, if it's not collusion, it's pressing up against the door of it from the doorstep of collusion.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to see a case. I can't say never. You never say never in anything, but I do not think that the baseball operations folks, and I'll move from that to, I want to bring something up before we wrap this up. I don't think they're going to be stupid enough to screw up like they did many years ago when they lost to collusion. I do not believe.
Well, the baseball model is totally different too, because the heads of baseball departments have more job security than they ever had. They get paid more than they ever have. They get paid more than their managers. They get paid more than some of their players in many cases. And so one of the results of that is you get there's also sort of this bill of goods that gets sold from time to time, from team to team, that well, we're not ready to win in our cycle right now. So this year we're not going all in. Next year we'll see where we're at. It might be the year after that we go in big. And so you get these be patient with us, sort of explanations from baseball presidents. Just look at Seattle. But that guy said it out loud. He said it out loud. Jerry DiPoto, I'm talking about, has said the quiet part out loud twice now. And the most recent one was this offseason when he said, what you're trying to do is win. What did he say? You're trying to win 50 something percent, 52% of your games or something like that. He suggested this model that would never be an all in to try to win the whole thing, like to go in on a given year and try to win the whole thing. It's about incrementally being good enough every year to sort of have a chance to get in.
Just to be competitive and keep your fan base engaged.
And
he got a shot here.
He used percentages on it. So, it was like so specific that it was like, that's hard to hear when you're the fan paying money for a box seat or paying higher cable bills or streaming bills because
you want to watch your team.
You want to watch your team.
All right. Next week, we'll get into Theo going back into baseball with the Boston Red Sox. We'll get into that. We don't have time to delve into it right now, but I will just tell you this. If they report next week in Mesa, Arizona at Sloan Park and the Under Armour Performance Center, and Cody Bellinger plays for Toronto.
Is that our sponsor now? Are we getting some sponsorship dough from them for mentioning that?
No, we're not. I wish. If Cody Bellinger's a Blue Jay or somewhere else, Matt Chapman somewhere else, Montgomery and Snell, like if all the big guns are off the board and none of them are wearing Cubby blue, I'm going Scorched Earth. Just letting you know.
You should. And so should every fan that pays $1 for merchandise, tickets, TV, anything. They should absolutely be.
And I will tell you this, and I'll leave it at this. Regardless, if Matt Shaw tears up the Cactus League, becomes the rookie of the year, and hits 700 home runs this season, my problem with it breaking camp will be you didn't try to do all you could.
I think that's fair. I think that's 100% fair.
And if they can come back in September and go, look, our rookie won Rookie of the Year. Good for you. You didn't try. You got lucky that this kid hit the ground running. That'd be my problem. I don't need Chapman and Montgomery and Snell and Bellinger and Hayden. I don't need you to do all of that. But you have an obvious freaking hole on this team. You better freaking fix it or it's bullshit.
And what we didn't mention was Baseball Prospectus in its annual PECOTA projections is thinking a lot like you with where this roster is right now. They've got the Cubs projected for 80 wins with their current roster.
Yeah, now Vegas has them at 84.5. So they have them.
So they have them basically where they finished.
Yeah, 83 wins last year.
Yeah, and the Baseball Prospectus, you start getting in the weeds on it. They don't like a lot of these pitchers individually, and we know that's the biggest part of the game.
We will find out.
Wait, before we go.
Yeah.
Friend of the program, Robert Myers.
Scott Nelson, the former assistant GM of the Cubs under multiple administrations. He's now an agent. He's going to join us. So we'll have a special edition of the podcast dropping. And then I know I'm going to be calling you at 11 o'clock at night and you'll go, hello, Gordon, Bellinger signed with whoever. If it's the Cubs, we have an emergency podcast.
Yes, it ain't going to happen. So it's a good thing we got Scott coming on. By the way, Scott spent, God, he was in the organization. I want to say it goes back to the 70s when he was a bat boy.
Oh, at least 30 years, at least.
Yeah.
And we do want to send out our deepest condolences to the family of Tom Hellman, Otis, who ran the clubhouse and was clubhouse manager emeritus after he stepped back from day-to-day travel last year, fell, hit his head, died at the age of 66. Tragic, awful, brutal.
There's a memorial in Cincinnati where he's from this weekend, and it hasn't been scheduled. I haven't seen it scheduled yet, but we expect one in April to honor him in Chicago.
God bless. He was a good man.
Let me close with something here, Cap, because we've got a very loyal follower listener for a podcast, Robert Myers.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's a diehard, man. He's great.
Oh, he's outstanding. And he sent me some of his thoughts that I think might correlate with a little bit of what you said here at the end. He said, I'm just sitting here thinking as he watches the Blackhawks, he said, he thinks the Cubs would be happy going into the season playing the kids. He said, say they don't sign anyone else. They're actually going into the season worse off. You would be missing Bellinger's bat, and we both know there's no way Gomes will be the same as he had a career year. So many question marks, including the bullpen. I think Hendricks is pretty much done too. He must be reading Baseball Prospectus because they've got Hendricks declining. I can see them finishing fourth. I think the Cardinals did enough to be back on top with the Reds and Milwaukee a close third, and then the Cubs and Pirates. I see maybe a 75-win team.
Stop, Robert. You're better than that.
Hey, listen, I think as this team sits right now, a shout out to Robert. I don't think that's unreasonable at all to think that. And he's a fan. He's a big fan. He follows this stuff. He cares about this. And so if he represents even a decent chunk of fans, this is a dangerous game the front office is playing if they don't do a little bit more here before we get into the season.
Robert, you're better than that.
Robert, I think you make great points.
Here comes the Cubbies.
Robert, Cap's just a fanboy. I think you make some good points.
Jed, I know you listen to the podcast because you've told me you do. You better get something done, or I'm going scorched earth. Love you dearly. I'm going scorched earth.
And I'm right there. I might be a mile down that road already by then.
Flamethrower. Get ready, Jed. Get that checkbook out. Gordon, have a great day.
You too, Cap.
All right, that is a wrap for a fun edition of our latest Cubs Recap podcast, a presentation of our Recap channel here on YouTube. Tell your friends. Hit that little bell so you get a notification every time we post content. We will talk to you next time when we talk to Scott Nelson and Emergency Podcast. If the Cubs make any moves going into spring training, pitchers and catchers report next week. Yes, sir. Baseball is coming back, baby. Take that.